Hi, I'm Eileen Bild, and I am with OTEL Talk. And today I have two beautiful people. I have Byron Edgington and Mariah Edgington. And welcome, guys. How are you?
Thank you.
That's great.
I'm
Thank you
good.
very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I'm excited to dig in because we're going to talk about your book, Journey Well. If you'll hold it up so people can see it.
I'm happy to do that.
Journey Well, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think everybody wants to journey well, right?
Everybody does. Yeah.
I know.
And you should. And you should.
Absolutely. So, Byron, you are a award-winning author, speaker. You have a bachelor's in English and creative writing from Ohio State University. You're a featured contributor for Biz Catalyst 360 on Medium Digest and Travel Awaits magazine. And I believe you have aviation as your background as well. You were weren't you a pilot?
I was a helicopter pilot for
helicopter.
many years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you talk about that in the book.
Yes.
And then Mariah, you're an author, speaker, ambassador for Nurse Deck, also a contributor for Biz Catalyst 360 and Medium Digest. And you have been a nurse, and both of you are retired and sharing all this awesome information, insight, knowledge, and wisdom about Journey Well. And I want to start today with what is the meaning of life for both of you, and what's your interpretation of that?
Yeah, that's always a good question, and people think there's a simple response to that. I don't think that's true, and I also think it takes us a while to really discern that for ourselves. And for me, it occurred to me not all that long ago, pretty recently, that I spent my entire life lifting people up, or trying to, and especially as a helicopter pilot, that was my job description. That's what I did all day. I lifted people up. And in retirement, I realized that is and that's the meaning of life to me. And in fact, my piece that I contribute to Biz Catalyst, to the essay part of Biz Catalyst, is called Mandate to Elevate. And for me, at least, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, the meaning of life is to lift other people up and to somehow give people the sense that they are, in fact, more than enough. That's my happy place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And then the fact that you were actually a helicopter pilot and lived that that idea that you lift people up and you were doing it physically in the real world and not just through speaking and writing. And I think that probably gives you a little bit more insight into what that means, because you have that bird's eye view, literally and figuratively. And I'm going to come back to that because the question's coming to mind that I think would be interesting to explore. So let's go to Mariah. What's your meaning of life?
As a bedside nurse for many years, taking care of from infants who were born prematurely, so basically them and their parents, all the way through my career, taking care of hospice patients as they transition out of this world and their families, it gave me a real intuition, insight into what each person brings to the world. And I believe that we all have a different perspective, but we can come together collectively and try to lift each other up in ways that we support each other, in ways of love, in ways of kindness. And I think part of my meaning for life now, because of course we all have different times in our lives where that changes a little bit. But for me right now, it is to help people to remember that they once had something inside of them that might have gone out, and to rediscover that is really important. Everyone has a light within them and a gift. And if we can reignite that in each person, that brings such meaning to life.
Well, that's beautiful. And that brings me to a portion of the book where you talk about yourself at 6 years old, where you were a free spirit. And so share a little bit more about that. And did you know at that time that you had that light and you had whatever gifts that you feel that you have nurtured and or rediscovered, and what your process has been from that 6-year-old?
Yeah. The story that you're referring to is when I scrambled up on top of my grandparents' barn to probably get a better view of the world from there, not knowing that it was dangerous, because I wanted to investigate. I wanted to see more. I wanted to be more. And unbeknownst to me, some other kids called my parents out, and the whole family tribe came, and they were looking at me from 30 feet below, and I'm like, hi, how's it going? And they were concerned, and I was labeled kind of a troublemaker because I went outside the box and did things all of my life that were not socially accepted necessarily, or definitely kind of on the fringe.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was close to 40, actually, maybe I was 41, 42, I think, and we moved to the island of Kauai. And so for the previous 40 years, I was always outside the box and knowing that I was just not good enough. I would never measure up. There was not a way that I would. And ironically, I was very accomplished. I had degrees. I was a flight nurse. I did so many different things, but I lived under the umbrella of the imposter and the inner critic daily.
Mm.
I knew when I'd get out of the helicopter and I'd go to the patient's bedside, and the doctors that were there and the people that were at the local hospital looking at me going, oh my gosh, they're finally here. At that point in my life, unfortunately, Eileen, I couldn't see that. What I saw was, oh, they're going to be really sad that this is who they sent. I can't believe I'm here. I did not know that I could shut that inner critic down, that I could get rid of the imposter, that I could start owning the value of a person that was super confident.
Yes.
And super within their own power. Well, we moved to Kauai, and I started my journey into myself, into a spiritual place. But it wasn't until COVID that it really came to a head for me, and I started doing a deeper dive and studying. And now I know that within me is a competent, beautiful, amazing, intelligent person. And I also know that every single person out there has this light within them. They have this ability to harness this. And I want people to know that.
Yep.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. And I can identify, as we were talking before we hit record, definitely you and I are on the same path. And I'm going to say there's hundreds of thousands of others who, when listening to this, will say, yes, that's me, especially people who feel like they don't belong, or they're different, or they're outside the box, or they've been labeled a troublemaker. And I think it's wonderful that you have put into your book journey, the opportunity for people to discover what they can do for themselves and how they can, as you put, reperception, use their reperception to find that inner light and grow to where they're staying in their authentic self, or standing in their authentic self, without making any excuses, right? To be okay in the world. Awesome. I love that story. Thank you for sharing. And Byron, I want to come back to you, because I talk a lot about bird's eye view. When we're in something, we don't see it as well as if we become an observer or somebody else points it out to us. So I'm just curious, as having been a helicopter pilot and seeing things from that bird's eye view, what would you say, how has that had an impact on your ability to be on the ground with people and the connection that you make with them because of that experience versus if you didn't have that experience?
Yeah, excellent question. I guess I would refer everybody to. Can I tell a war story? I'll tell you a war story.
Oh, I love stories. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe not a war story because it happened when we lived on Kauai. I flew tours around the island. I flew tourists all day long around that little island, and it was just a magical experience. But I had a woman on board one afternoon, and she was a very interesting person. She was all by herself, which is kind of unusual because I usually flew couples. And her name was Wendy. And Wendy had a big furry hat on, and she had 2 or 3 flower leis around her neck. And she was just a hoot. I just knew from the briefing before the flight, I knew that Wendy was going to be the high point of the tour. And she was. She was directive, and she was abrupt, and she just was fun. And during the briefing, one of the other passengers asked about the rain. And just like that, Wendy said, "No rain, no rainbows."
Oh.
And I knew this was going to be a fun tour. Anyway, cut to the chase. At some point, halfway through the tour, Wendy said, "Okay, there's a rainbow. I'm done. We can go now." And I said, "Well, we're only halfway through." She said, "That's fine. We can go now." Okay, now, here's the end of this story. I landed with them. Everybody left, and I got ready for my next tour. About 2 or 3 weeks after that tour, I had a letter in my box at the office where I flew at the company. And it was a letter from a woman who knew Wendy. And she wrote to me to tell me that Wendy had died about 2 weeks after her tour.
Hmm.
And that tour to see a rainbow in a helicopter was on her bucket list. It was the last time on her bucket list.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills on that story. Yeah. Wow.
And that is probably, in my entire aviation career, that's probably my favorite story. And I remember every moment of that tour all along the way.
Wow.
And so if I could convey that feeling to everybody else, put yourself in that cockpit, elevate yourself to that point where you can be aware of other people's journey. That's what I would tell them.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. So I'm thinking she had either cancer or something she knew she was going to be on her way out.
And she was a courageous woman, and she had certain things she needed to get done before she left.
Wow. And you were there to hold space for her as that helicopter pilot without even realizing it.
Oh yeah, and what an honor. I mean,
I know, right? Right.
Wow.
And that's the thing that I think your book and your message is: do what your passion and your vision and your dreams are, because you never know, as you just said,
That's right.
Byron, the impact that you're going to have holding the space for that person that you have an experience with.
Yes.
And it's great that that awareness was brought to you, because you could appreciate that experience even more now and be able to tell that story to help others, think about the importance of being present when you're having an experience with someone, because sometimes people just need to feel heard, valued, understood. And I know you share in there that everybody, has an inner life, and it's not always easy to bring it into the outer life. So I want to segue into that inner outer, and you call it reperception, and I've never heard that word before. So you title it as a new word, a new life. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, in Journey Well, You're More Than Enough, rediscover your passion, purpose, and love of yourself and life. We titled it that way because we want people to understand and to know that it is possible to reperceive things. Now, people talk about forgiveness, and I wasn't always a fan of the word forgiveness. And so I kind of was looking around for something other than, oh, we have to forgive. That kind of reminded me of religion and church. And so I'm very spiritual, and I really want to make sure that people understand that when we have things in our past that we would choose to do differently, had we to do it over, it would look different. However, obviously, we can't go back there. And because of that, we came up with Byron. One day we were talking about the book and what we were doing, and he came up with the word
reperception. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it does it, and this, you speak it as segues, this leads us into the concept of choice. Because we have been really, we've talked about this a lot, and we've become aware of the idea that probably people don't realize how much choice they have in their lives and what they can choose. And one of the things we can choose to do is we can choose to look at things that happened in our past and what we consider mistakes or missteps. And we don't want to make light of people's tragedies and so forth, because people have had tragedies and awful situations in their lives, and we don't dismiss that. And we're not professionals, so we don't claim to be. But we can look at those things, most of those things, as a choice to reperceive them as lessons, for example. That's one of the ways that we can reperceive what happened in our past. And the other choice everybody has is to move on and to not let that. In fact, we have a chapter in Journey Well, You're More Than Enough. We have a chapter called Burn the Baggage. And it's about making that choice to physically leave behind things that you have no control over anymore because they're done.
Yeah. And so often you hear of people who come out with a new book, or they come out with a dramatic story, and they drag all their baggage with them, and they lay it out, and they continue laying it out, and they continue laying it out. So they're continuing to bring it forward. Now, both of us have had situations in our past that we don't discuss that are very negative things as children.
Yeah.
And that is part of our past. We have both come to accept that those things brought us to where we are now.
Yeah.
And we have reperceived them as stepping stones to a brighter future, to a place where we can help others to understand that they're able to make that choice of how they view their past and then let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And that's a great process, because it's giving them permission and for them to say it's okay to let it go. And the guidance into the unknown of who am I without that is important. And your book can help them to align with that reperception and the shift and those stepping stones, because it's not always easy to let go and to release the weight that someone might get used to and comfortable with, right? It's their comfort zone.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yes. And it sounds like you guys have done an excellent job in coming to terms and recognizing that it's a memory and we have the emotions attached to it, and deciding, do I want to bring that with me, or can I get closure? Or it sounds like you've been able to have closure on a certain level that has enabled you to live life fully in the now, helping others as you continue to grow and move forward, so that your light that keeps getting brighter can have an impact on others. And it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing to be able to be in that place. What would be the most memorable up to this point experience you've had with someone who you've seen make that transition? I mean, what was that shift like for them, and how did you experience it with them?
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I thought of a good friend of mine, Jason Freeman. And Jason is a wonderful fellow who has a pretty, I mean, to a lot of people, they would see his speech defect as a real liability because he's very difficult to understand. You know, cognitively, he's perfectly fine. He's sharp as a tack. And he really is difficult to understand. Well, at one point in Jason's life, he's I don't know, probably in his 40s, I suppose, and he's been like that since birth. But at one point, he understood that that's his superpower.
Hmm.
And if you look on his website, he's a public speaker. That's what he does. He goes out and speaks in public.
Wow.
And on his website, he says he is aided by his disability. Now, that's
Wow.
reperception. He is my hero. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think more people are being guided to do that who have a
Yeah.
disability or a handicap,
Mhm.
and given almost like a incentive to uh, give themselves that strength from within
Yeah.
to be okay with that disability and find where can I use that to be of service, to be of help, and to elevate and uplift,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
and I should mention too that I talked to Jason on a Zoom call not too long ago, and I was asking him that very question about when did he realize, and he said, I asked him if he'd ever been bullied because of his difference.
right.
And he says, yeah, Byron, I was bullied constantly. There was a guy who was never let me alone day and night. He was always constantly bullying me. And he says, and guess who that guy was?
Oh
It
no, it was you.
was
And
him.
oh, it's
He said, I
him,
was
his inner
doing it
critic.
myself.
Oh, okay.
He said, I was doing it to myself. And he says,
Oh,
as soon as I realized that, that's when the change happened for him.
how awesome. And that can be for anybody, not just somebody with
That's right.
a handicap. As you were saying, Mariah, you have that inner critic and imposter syndrome. And a lot of people, I think, struggle with that today with the way the world is and
Yeah.
trying to find their position and who they are. Which we're going to segue again. You talk about the reyouable energy. And again, I haven't heard that word. So please share and explain what the reyouable energy is all about.
Well, and we also know that we have, and you probably are aware of this, that the universe speaks in a different language. It's love, it's the level of vibrational energy.
Yes.
And when we look at how much energy we have ourselves, we have the ability to get into a new energy, because we all wake up some days and our energy is just low. Life looks kind of drab. We're not really sure. But when people live in that constant state, they aren't aware that they hold that energy within them. And when you can get into a group of people, such as we have here, and I feel your energy, it's wonderful. You're light, you're bright, but you probably have days where you wake up and you go, wow, how am I going to get this all done? And no, I don't really feel it. Once we realize that we hold the energy within, we realize it's reyouable energy. And we're able to bring that out just by changing the way we perceive things. So again, reperception, looking at how things are abundant in our life, not lack. How much abundance we have here, because I'm quite sure you're in a different place, but you still have enough oxygen, probably more than enough air over there to breathe. That it's right there. So there's an abundance of that. There's abundance of everything. And when we realize that, it's just like energy, we can switch it and lift ourselves up.
I love that. And I'm going to throw something out because we didn't talk about this, and I want to see what in the moment you say. So if I were to say reperception plus reyouable energy equals, what would be that next word? So I'm going to put something out there that we didn't talk about. So in the moment, I want to see what you say. If I say reperception plus reusable energy equals, what's the next word?
How about manifestation?
Ah, I love that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Well, and let me elaborate just a little bit on that because we do talk in the book, and we're not experts, of course. We're not neuroscientists, but we have a chapter on the competitive and the creative mind,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit about mindset. And again, we're getting back to choices because what a lot of people don't realize is that what you tell yourself during the day, what the words you use, what you tell yourself constantly, that becomes your reality. And so why not tell yourself positive, uplifting things? And it sounds simplistic, but really it's at least worth a try. Let's put it that way. To bring more positive words into your life, to avoid, because there's an abundance of negative, you know, things out in the world today. It's not hard to find.
No, it's not. But we can find the positive. It's there more than I think people realize. And one of the things that I share is when you repeat something over and over again, it becomes a new belief, and you're rewiring your neural pathways so that it becomes your new normal. And I think a lot of people are talking about we're trying to get back to normal, and I like to say, well, move forward with the new energy and the new awareness, and create a more sustainable normal.
Mhm.
Because going back, there might be some things you don't want to take with you forward.
Sure. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
So is there anything else that you would like to spotlight from your book that we can share today?
Well, thanks for the opportunity for that. I guess I should I'll hold that up one more time. Why not?
Why not? Thank you.
And I should mention too that Journey Well You Are More Than Enough, and the subtitle is Rediscover Your Passion, Purpose, and Love of Yourself in Life. It is going to be a series. There will be further titles of Journey Well You Are More Than Enough, and then we'll have different subtitles. And there's also an online course that people can access through Udemy. There is a guidebook, and there should be by the time this airs, there should be a gratitude journal that will be available. All these are available on Amazon.
Or on our website.
Or on our website. Probably the easiest way to find them is to go to mariahedgington.com.
Yeah.
And all these resources are there, and more, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We do talk about gratitude. It's an important part of our life. And when we realize the abundance we do have that we can tap into because it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And just those shifts, I've had the opportunity to work with several people who didn't realize that they had these keys within them. And so that's part of the reason that we put the action steps in the book and then in the guidebook, because we want people to know that this is possible for them too. They can make this shift by leaning into a brand new way of thinking themselves, because we're all bombarded with that negative energy that comes from social media, from the news, from everywhere else. And once we realize, gosh, hey, let's go over here and maybe look at some articles at BizCat 360 and see what they got to offer.
That is a plug here.
And find different ways of looking at the world through gratitude journaling, through affirmations. Something that I do say all the time is, and many people don't realize this until they hear it and they start incorporating that, and that is the words I am. And whatever follows I am follows you.
Absolutely.
So when you say, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, I'm just
too fat, I'm too
tall, I'm too skinny, I'm too whatever.
Too skinny, I'm too poor.
Instead,
that's what follows you.
Don't listen to that. Ditch that stuff, because it's a choice. And that voice you hear is only yours. And once people learn that, Eileen, it's amazing, because some people just go,
Oh,
Exactly.
oh. Well, what I say to that is kick out all the people who are rent free in your head, right?
Yes.
Which includes your critic and other people who try to convince you you're something you're not.
Right.
Exactly.
So yeah,
So your I ams need to be positive. I am beautiful. Why not say that? If nobody
right.
else is agreeing with you, it doesn't matter.
I am great at crossword puzzles. I am
Whatever it is.
fill in the blank. Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
something that I want people to take away from.
Oh, that's a great tip. So, one last words of wisdom to anybody that is looking for the opportunity to journey well.
Yeah. Well, I will mention again the title because that's where I'm going with this. Journey well, you are more than enough. And, it's very common to hear people say, oh, you're good. You're all right. You're good. You're doing good. You're enough. But we took it a step beyond that because we decided you are more than enough because more can't be defined.
Mm,
And we really do believe that the only limits people have are the ones they put on themselves.
absolutely.
And if you're
Absolutely.
more than enough, you can be anything you decide to be in your own mind. And if you can maintain that mindset, then you have no limits.
That's right. The world is waiting for you, right?
Great.
Yeah. And I should add to that too, we believe that everyone has a gift. And we think too that people must share that gift with the rest of us. It's very important that they do.
Absolutely, because someone somewhere out there is wanting and needing what you individually have to offer,
That's
or in
right.
your case, you together has to offer in the book. So, Byron and Mariah, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful talk, and I look forward to bringing you back and talking more about what is in the book and things you might have experienced since this talk for the future time that we'll come back together.
Nice.
So-
Well, thank you, Eileen. I appreciate your time too
Yeah.
and the
Thanks for the
invitation.
opportunity. We appreciate you.
You're welcome, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
And
You too. And
journey
journey
well.
well.
Thank you.